Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming to our trumpet masterclass. I'm really excited for this and I'm so glad that you guys are all here. Our teacher tonight is Mr. Micah Wilkinson. Do you want to give like a short intro?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I think it's incredible what you all are doing, and so I'm honored to be with you all this evening. I am Micah Wilkinson, and I play principal trumpet with the Pittsburgh Symphony. And I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, and have been a professional orchestral trumpet player for my entire career. It's really one of those exciting things where I get to say my dream of playing in an orchestra full time came true, and my dream of playing principal trumpet in a major symphony orchestra came true. And once upon a time, I was your age, however, whatever ages you all are, and I was a student just gunning for it and having a great time with my friends making music. And I just feel so lucky that I get to keep doing that. I bounced around a bunch of different orchestras. My life has taken me, I went to college in Minnesota, I studied in Germany, I studied in Arizona, and then I started playing third trumpet in the Tucson Symphony and then third trumpet in the Oregon Symphony for almost 5 years there, and a year with the San Francisco Symphony playing second trumpet for a year and a half in the Houston Symphony, 3 years principal with the San Diego Symphony, and now 3 years principal with the Pittsburgh Symphony. So I'm had kind of a career that's bounced me around the United States, and it's been really fun. And I love teaching, and so that's one of the cool things about this silver linings of the pandemic is that I've been able to connect with people like you all, and I'm running courses online, and I'm connecting with people in ways that I never would have thought possible. I also wouldn't have had time to do it because I would have been busier with my primary job with the orchestra, and I wouldn't have had all this gear that I had to buy once the once the storm came and everything crashed down, and I bought a computer and microphones and all that stuff, and then all of a sudden teaching online wasn't so bad. And I guess that's what you all have been doing, is mentoring online, and I just think that's fantastic. And so I can't believe, Amy, what you've done with this. It's so incredible, and I'm so inspired by you, and I'm encouraged by the volunteers who I can't wait to hear play today.
Yeah, I'm so excited to hear you guys play too. You guys are all really talented. So, why don't we, like, before we start, let's just take like a group picture. So, if you want to, you can turn your camera on or off, but it'll basically just go on like our Instagram. Okay, so, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Awesome. Okay, cool. And then our first performer is Jireh Kim, and she's going to play Andante and Scherzo. And then I'll give a time check when there's 5 minutes left, and then when time is up. Yeah. When you're ready, you can start.
Okay. Sorry, I just need a sip of water.
Go for it. Nice. Way to go. That was great. Way to go first. Some really nice stuff there. You really get around the horn well. And so you've got facility, I would say. You know, you can get from top to bottom, and you have flexibility and articulation that pops. I love how in the beginning, in the more lyrical section, you strive to really sing through the ends of your phrases. That's something that you really never hear with young players, and that really stood out to me, that at the ends of those phrases, you didn't give up on singing them. So that's really, really wonderful and shows a sign of maturity in your playing. I think there's a couple things that we can work on, and one is getting a little bit more exaggerated character whenever possible. Because why do we do this in the first place? Why do you play music?
Because I don't know, I enjoy playing it. It makes me happy.
Okay. And do you enjoy playing for others or just for yourself?
I like playing for others
And so what is it about playing for others that makes you happy?
because when I play for others, it makes them happy, which makes me happy.
So you get to share that.
Yeah.
So I think that as long as we have that in mind when we're playing, that we are communicating, that we have something to share, then we have to think about, well, what are we sharing? We're not just sharing black notes on a page, right? We're bringing those to life. And we're not just playing a bunch of pitches in a certain order, in a certain rhythm. We're communicating emotion in music, right? We're speaking a different language. And through that language, we can express all kinds of things. And so we have to be very clear on what we're trying to express at all times, and let that be your primary goal, that you're communicating that very clearly. So at the beginning, what would you say the character is that you're trying to express?
Probably like really majestic, like you're kind of letting everyone know you're like coming in or something like that.
Okay, here I am.
Yeah.
And there's okay, majestic, majesty, like the idea of sort of royalty, nobility, like there's something very powerful and grand about that, right? So let that impact the way that you play your articulation, the way that you shape the phrase, the way that your sound is conceived and conjured. So, and at the beginning, Barat writes risoluto, like resolute. so that we already get pretty significant contrast between the first majestic passage and the more connected dolce lié in the French for this sort of connected section right here. Can you play the beginning, that what I played, and see if you can sort of play more expansively? And when you go up to the sharp fourth scale degree, so in your part you've got the A sharp there, right? That's not normal in the key, right? And so then when we have that in the Lydian mode, then we want to bring it out because it's something different. Ya da da dee da 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 dum. Okay.
Okay.
Great. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I want you to do that again. Part of the cool thing about this is that there's never anything on the downbeat, is there? Right? We have an empty downbeat at the beginning, and then it's a tied over into the downbeat in the second bar. Same thing in the third and fourth bar. Same thing in the fifth and sixth bar, seventh, eighth. We never have a downbeat. And so that gives it a different feel, right? There's never like a 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a yum papa, and then tied over ya ba ba be, right? And so because of that, we can be aware of that, and it's almost like you show the beat that isn't there. Let's take it again from the very beginning. Nice. I really love how you stretch that top A sharp there. Now, how much contrast can you make in the next passage? Just the very next phrase. Right. It's like water bubbling, that's sort of like murky kind of sound that we want. And so if we can bring that out in sort of a playfulness, like something a little more natural, like the water or the wind, the breeze that we don't really control, but it comes and it swoops and then it slows down, right? That's what this can conjure. Right? It's almost like we're not playing a trumpet anymore. We're playing the wind. Okay? Take just that section right there.
Oh, so the part that you just played,
Yes,
or
just what I just played.
oh,
Did you hear how you had a completely different sound just now? It
yeah,
sounded like you were playing a flute. That was beautiful.
thank you.
That's so great. And so we want to have this kind of imagination when we approach music, right? Because we don't want to be limited by this hunk of metal that we have to ram into our face. We want to think, with much more evocative thinking. So make sure in the next section that you play 3 quarters rest. Quarter, 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 dotted eighth, right? It sounded like you were beating me to the downbeat and playing almost like quarter, quarter, eighth, quarter each time. Does that make sense? In the next section? Wait for the downbeat on each one of those, okay? You can do that. That'll be fine on your own. Now, you can experiment with, have you done any multiple tongue work yet? Double tongue, triple tongue?
Kind of.
Kind of. So that will help that sextuplet section that you have in the Pio Vivo, getting that to kind of roll off the tongue, da 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 dum, instead of having to go ta 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 for each one of those, right? That's why we learn it, so that we can play faster articulated passages, right? You were doing single tongue throughout, I guess. Da 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 dum. Is that right? Yeah. And so you can learn da ga da da ga da for triplets, right? Or da da ga da da ga. Just say those.
Da da ga da da ga.
That's right. That's one option. I didn't learn that until I was older, but a lot of people learn that first. You should learn both. And then da ga da da ga da.
Da ga da da ga da.
Right. And so now just like say that to yourself like 500,000 times a day around your house, right? Wherever you are, wherever you're not going to be annoying people, and on your wind. So you learn to associate it with like breeze, not ta-ka-ta-ta-ka-ta. People get tongue-tied when they start to think of the tongue way back in the back of the throat. We want it to be a moving on the breeze. Ta-ka-ta-ta-ka-ta. And what's the other one?
Da ga da da ga da.
That's the one I said, yeah. And then the other one would be
I forgot.
da da ga da da ga. Yeah. And so it's like the two T's either go first, da da ga, or they go at the end, or they go da ga da. Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that you get then you can play something like that I can't single tongue that fast. I can't da 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 that quick, but I can go da 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 dum through a passage like that, and then it can move more quickly. Okay? Practice it on one note before you practice it with changing notes. Do you have a mute?
Yeah, I have it, but I left it somewhere like 2 days ago.
Okay, no problem. All right. Yeah, this calls for mute in the middle of the solo for those who are watching, and so I was curious about that. And then
Just a quick time check. We have about 5 minutes left.
about 5. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Great. I'd love to hear you take this section in the scherzo, and I want you to think sort of like how much spark and life you can play with, no matter what the dynamic is, that nothing is ever da 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 da, but ba da dum bum bum ba, ba da dum bum bum ba, that it's always like that. It's exuberant. Okay? Take that. I don't have measure numbers here, but it's the scherzo.
Okay.
Good. Now let's see how much ring or resonance we can get on all of your notes, every single one of them, so that they all freely vibrate. Not, but is the difference coming through on the microphone?
Yeah.
Yeah. So just play for me the D, the first note that you have there. Yeah. And so right now it sounds a little bit like the focus is right here. And if I focus on my lips, you'll hear it. Right? And if I let the sound move into the horn and imagine that instead my lips are here. Ba, ba, out my bell. Not here. Not. Right, hear the difference?
Yeah.
So let's see if we can, I want to imagine that the sound starts here, not here. On the D. Yep. Let the bell vibrate. Imagine that the bell itself is vibrating as you play. Wow, you're quick. Really quick. Let's play the scherzo and let the bell resonate. That's so great. That's so much better. You're really getting a lot more ring. Does it sound different to you in your room?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big difference, right? And it's a sound that fills any space, big hall, small hall. It sounds great everywhere. And you know you've got it when you hear that really free, ringy resonance in your bell, and you can't force that sound. That sound has to be just freely released. That was beautiful. That was fantastic. Where are we allowed to ask? Where do you live?
Oh, I live in Maryland.
Okay, who's your teacher?
Uh, Mr. Allred.
Okay, well, he's doing a great job with you. What year are you in school?
I'm a freshman in high school.
You serious? Wow, that's amazing. Okay, great, great. Well, look out, world. Um, Keep up the great work. Thanks for teaching these kids. I hope if we have time at the end to be able to answer any questions that anybody has. So if anything comes up, I hope that we will have time for that, because I would love for you to be able to ask any questions of me that come to mind through this class.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, way to go.
Awesome job. That was so good. Yeah, great job, Jireh. Okay, next up we have Parisa, and Parisa is playing Francais Sonatine. I hope I said that right, but yeah. Parisa, when you're
That's
ready.
right. Yep. Yep.
Awesome. Yeah.
Okay, can I do a sound test? I just want to make sure everything's good.
Yeah.
Does that sound fine?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
Trying to pin her, but it hasn't worked yet. Let's see. You all are killing me. That's amazing. Okay, I need to know your story. Parisa, is that how you say your name?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, and so where are you and how old are you?
I'm a junior. You asked, I take from Brent Flinchbaugh, by the way.
Oh, okay. Is that
Yeah.
Baltimore?
No, Howard
Oh.
County.
Okay, okay. That's Virginia, or I don't know, Howard County.
Oh, Maryland, sorry.
Maryland. Okay, Maryland. Okay, got it. Man, wow. You got a C trumpet and everything.
Yes.
Have you had one for a little while?
Since July.
Okay, all right. So it was a pandemic thing. You got a new one. Cool. Yeah, when I was in high school, I got my C trumpet right around your age. I think it was my sophomore year of high school, and I just started taking it to band for everything, so that I just like practiced the transpositions. And so I just stopped playing B flat trumpet and I just started playing C trumpet and everything, you know. And I got a lot better at the instrument because I had that time on it. Not to mention the transposition, but also just you seem to be navigating around the instrument really, really well.
Yeah, I definitely like it better than B flat.
Oh, okay. Well, so it just suits you. That's great. Yeah. Wow. Well, I think the thing about this tune, you're playing the heck out of it, is to see any spot where we can bring out the goofiness of it and this sort of like snarkiness. And so, whenever you see scherzando or things like that, then they mean this sort of joking way of playing. And he's got that. So at 11, you have these, and anytime you've got the I think it needs to come out even more as sort of this like kind of character,
Yeah.
right? And then at 12, I hesitate to say much. This is really good. At 12, it can have just a skosh more pompousness to it, I think, maybe. In a French way. Have you ever seen, like, Maurice Andre videos of him play?
Mm-hmm.
You have? Okay. So he has this sort of, like, enormous gut, right? And he's sort of very happy to be playing trumpet for you today, and he just has this presence that's so appealing, and yet he's so confident, right? And so I think we can capture that just a little bit in a section like that at 12. And then it goes completely different, right? It's these super quick shifting gears, kind of like, have you learned Petrushka yet?
Yeah.
Okay, it's kind of like these sudden shifts in style, right? That have to be dramatic and immediate. There's no bleed from one old style to the new style, right? Some of these are, it's just this carnival of characters. Watch out. It's subtle, but make sure that every once in a while he puts a duple thing instead of the triplet or instead of the 16th. So, where would be a good example of this? I'm not seeing one, but I feel like there's a, yes, let's see, before 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That B flat is a duple, not a triplet, right? And if there's any ever spot like that, then make sure that you get, that it really stands out as being different.
Yeah.
The last, like, 1, 2, 3, 4 bars before the end, that C major thing up to high C, right?
Mm-hmm.
Practice it. I'd probably say like a bunch of times where you don't go to the C, where you go to the G, and maybe where you re-articulate the G, or where you do like an air swell accent on the G or something, and then you can practice that shift so that everything going up to that point is really stable. And then you can add on a C on top of it, but it's good up until that point. You want to hit any of those spots?
Sure.
Great. Okay. Then let's take just the very beginning, and I want you to play it with this is solo, right? I want you to play it. There's no rules here. So I want you to make me laugh. I want you to do it in such a goofy way that it makes me laugh at the very beginning.
Okay. How far should I go?
If I don't cut you off, if you don't hear me yelling, then stop at 9.
Okay.
Okay, so there's a little bit of a little bit of a hurry happening here that I think actually takes away from the character. And so if you can make sure that you're settled in your tempo. Haven't practiced this, but right, I pulled it up. But it's a little bit slower, and I'm able to bring out a little bit more exaggerated things in the middle of the line rather than just playing it fast. Okay. So just take it 2 clicks slower and bring out more of the playfulness.
Okay.
Especially when you have like ba-dee-dum, ba-dee-dum, ba-da-ba-bum, ba-ba-ba-ba-bum, ba-ba-ba-ba-bum, right? Any of that kind of stuff is what I really want to jump through.
Okay.
Good. It's getting much, much, much closer. Record yourself and listen back at half speed and see what happens to your tempo. It will be very revealing, okay? It can be painful to listen back to yourself on any recording, but especially to listen back at half speed. But if you'll do that, you'll notice where it kind of takes off on you just a little bit, right? And I don't think that that's your intention just yet.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to say, I really love your fearless approach to playing. It's just like, here it is. I'm going to knock this down. And you should never lose that. Never play too carefully that you lose that. You might have a million teachers, tell you like, well, but then there's this detail here, like I'm doing kind of, and make sure you dot your I's and cross your T's, and then you end up like losing this fearlessness in your playing. I don't want you to ever lose that, because that's like who you are, and it's so cool. And so you should always have that with you, and yeah, look for advice and play for a bunch of people and put yourself out there. You're going to do big things if you want to. And so in that respect, you just kind of have to know how to receive a bunch of information and be able to put it to use, but maintain your identity. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get it.
Okay. And can you do that thing at 11 and see if we can, like, I know there's not subito dynamics written, but I think that those sort of hee-haw moments need to come out a little bit more there at 11.
Okay.
Thanks. Okay, good. Let's see if we can clean it up a little bit. It's one of those things where it's like, I'm just thinking, and it's like, I didn't quite catch everything, and so then I lost the message, right? This is going to be kind of sloppy because I haven't practiced it, but. Right, so but I'm making sure that I'm right on the beat when hopefully. Right, and if I'm jumping for those downbeats, my pianist is gonna hate me, right? I have somebody else I'm working with here, right? So it's a little slower, and then right on the downbeat, make sure you nail the downbeat. Then again, nail the downbeat, especially with an accent on it. Right? It shows maturity to wait for the downbeat, to wait for where it's supposed to go. I think Leon Fleischer, the famous pianist, said, playing in time, I'm going to misquote him, but basically playing in time is playing as late as possible, but not too late. Right? So it's like never early. So let's see how much we can get into the groove of this at 11 and never be early.
Okay.
Thanks. Good. And so then we have to bring out those accents, especially the ones that are on the second eighth note, because they're not on the downbeat. those have to really pop because they're
Mhm.
so jolting.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take it again. Good. And that first, the slurred notes, they're all the same length. So they're all 16ths. So it's not ba-da-ba-dum, it's ba-da-ba-dum. Ba-da-ba-dum, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then just for fun, let's see how much of this character you can still have in an intense whisper at 13 and the next line. You know that, like, you're across the room in a big space and you're doing something you're not supposed to be doing, and your mom sees you and she's like gonna get your attention, but she's whispering and you can still hear her and feel the intensity from her whisper, like from across the room, right? That's how we can play this sort of intense whisper in a soft passage. Where is it? So as sort of as soft as you can with as much articulation as you can, right at 13.
Okay.
Good, good. Make sure that he's a little lazy with the staccatos, at least in my edition. But I think all of those ba-ba pickups should be short, that triplet eighth. Not.
Oh, okay.
And then there's another duple for you right there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then again, short but accented, okay?
Okay.
Slower so you can show all those details at 13. Good, really good, really good. You want to take the end? So you can just kind of pick up relatively where you left off and play it all the way down to the end.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt, just a quick time check. There's about 5 minutes left. Yeah.
Okay, great, thanks.
Okay.
Good. And so it's not an issue of like, can you play high? No, you've got those notes in spades. It's an issue of timing. And so one part of you is way ahead of another part of you. Like your valves and your air and all this is not coordinated. That's the issue. And so it's out of rhythm. And then you're going, part of you just goes like, oh crap, and goes up for the high note. And so we've got to keep it right in time, and then you'll have a much better shot at it.
Okay.
Play third bar of 14 on the chromatic passage moving up, and then you know, I'm slurring it, but I'm going to play it right in time. Third bar of 14.
Okay.
The internet did that thing where like it compressed you, and so it was like way faster than you actually played it, I think. It sounded good, but try again so I can hear it better.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's not your fault. Oh, so close, right? But I want all of those notes.
Yeah.
And same thing goes when we practice lip slurs, right? That we make sure we get all the bumps along the way. We really can hear happening on all the notes in the middle, right? Mm-hmm. That's the kind of looseness that I want on this lick as well.
Yeah.
Can you do it once where you tongue it instead of slur it?
Okay.
so that it can be right in time.
Just right at that or before?
Ba-da-da-dum, ba-da-ba-ga-da-ga-da-ga-dum. Yeah. Yep, again.
Okay.
Almost. And play, when you do articulate, play that part as long as possible so that you're practicing the flow.
Okay.
Yeah, so something wanted to stop up on you, right?
Yeah.
Again?
Ah.
Nice. Yes, good, good. Now play it slurred.
Okay.
Almost. Again, with the same assertive energy that you had when you articulated.
Yeah. Okay.
That's closer. You hear how this is like really getting you
Yeah.
more consistent on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
On something like this, I love to practice back to front so that I'm like, as I'm playing, I'm getting more and more comfortable as I go. We tend to practice at the beginning, right? We practice the first measure, first phrase, then the second phrase, and then we keep starting at the beginning, and we get less and less comfortable as we go. And if you practice back to front, then you get more comfortable as you go. You get more familiar. It's like been on a long trip and you're driving home and you're getting like, oh yeah, I'm near, this is my old neighborhood, right? Oh yeah, there's my school. All right, okay, yeah, there's my grocery store. Yeah, all right, now I'm on my street. Now I'm in my driveway. Now I'm home. And that's the last measure, right? We want that feeling when we're navigating something like this, that you can sort of feel like you're snowballing out of control, like,
Yeah.
you know, and so practicing in that way can really be helpful. And having like a point that your eye picks out and a point that your ear picks out in the middle of like a bunch of notes, if you can know I'm going for this C, I'm going for this G, like then it can kind of help simplify things for the brain so that you can coordinate. You'll be able to do all the stuff around it, but you have one point of focus in the middle of a lick or something. Make sense?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Wow. Both of you girls, just incredible. I'm so honored to get to hear you. Thank you. This is really inspiring. Way to go.
Thank you so much.
Keep up the great work.
Awesome. Yeah, that was so impressive. I was like, wow, awesome job. Okay, so next up we have Billy Allen, and he'll be playing the first movement of the Hummel Concerto.
Hi, Billy.
Hello. So, I'm gonna stop like a little bit before the end, because someone's just like kind of not there yet. So. Yeah.
Sure, it's a long movement, so
Yeah, it is.
yeah. We could stop at the end of the exposition if you want.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think that works.
Okay.
Like where exactly is that?
Well, that'll be and then before it goes in the pa 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 pa.
Alright, cool.
So we'll stop before that, at least for now.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Can I play a few notes? Because I haven't really. Okay.
very nice, Billy. So I don't want to cut you off before you've played, maybe all that you want to play. So did you have more that you want to play?
Yeah, I'll play a little more.
Okay, great.
I think we can stop there because, yeah.
Okay, great, beautiful, really, really nice stuff. While I'm thinking about it, let's just check that last measure should be B flats, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good, good. So the Hummel Concerto is written for keyed trumpet in E, right?
Yeah.
And so the original key is actually up a half step, but that would be awful on this instrument. And so in the orchestra, we play, like if I were to play this with orchestra, I would play it on my E trumpet probably, or some people play it in E but on a C trumpet, all kinds of options. But certainly when I was your age, I learned that on the B flat trumpet, just like you are doing. And it works well with piano in this key to play it this way on B flat or on E flat trumpet once you get one. That's a great solo instrument that you need, right? So tell me about yourself. Where are you and what year are you in school?
I'm a sophomore in high school, and my prior teacher is also Brent Flinchbaugh.
Oh, so are you all in that area?
I think so.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Okay. Well, he has quite a studio, obviously, and something's in the water over there. That's so cool. I'm sort of speechless. I usually have lots to say, but you all are just fantastic. And your students are lucky too that they get to study with you. Now, I have a question. Did you guys audition to do this, or did you just say, "Yeah, I'll do it. Sign me up. I'll be a teacher"?
No, I mean, it's just volunteers. Like, we didn't audition or anything. We just kind of thought it'd be a cool thing to do.
Well, it is a cool thing to do, but you also happen to be really good musicians. That's the thing. Like, plenty of people could say like, "Yeah, sure, I'll teach," but like not actually be able to play. So I don't know how you handled that, Amy, but you got 3 superstars here. So, and Billy, what year are you in school, did you say?
Yeah, I'm a sophomore.
Sophomore. Okay, great, good. Well, for me, it's always it's about the character. It's about what we're trying to communicate. And so we have to really emphasize the what, the capital WHAT, and what am I saying with this? What is the composer? Why did if you think about like every dot on the page was a decision, right? Why did he write it like that, right? Why did he put that phrase like that? What else is happening in the accompaniment that goes with that? These are the kinds of questions that we discover when we dive deeper into music, and it helps us to unravel the mysteries and tell a more compelling story. And so I think we can have very distinct characters when we play this. What's the character that you would say at the beginning?
It's really grand, and yeah, I don't know. I think of like, I don't know, like in like medieval times, like there's a king, and like the king like walks out, and like there's the trumpets, I guess. I don't know.
Okay, so it reminds you of a fanfare.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so I think there's I might use the word bold. And so, yes, it has to sound like a fanfare, and you're getting there. But the problem with a lot of us is it can sound a little logy, la 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 la, right, instead of ba 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 bum, and that's the kind of character that you sound like you're after way you talked about it. So can you play the opening with a little bit more, somebody else said, "Here I am." Okay, just the opening. Okay. There's something about the way you're producing your first note that's sort of a little logy. It's a little slow, and so even though it happens quick, it's kind of like whoa, and then ba ba ba. So you're getting whoa ba 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 instead of ba 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 ba. Make sure that that first note has a little more clarity. Good. Better. So can you play twice on the same note and then the third time as written? Okay, the first one doesn't count because it wasn't good, right? Two good ones and then we'll move on. Good. Now, when you went to the arpeggio, you did something really different. I want you to copy for yourself. So in my playing, I'm constantly using myself as a model. I'm establishing something that's really good and healthy and right down the middle, beautiful, easy playing. And then but it's simple, right? It might just be my easy, gentle warm-up, my something lyrical, one note, articulating on one note, right? Something that I can really grasp and nail. And then I'm going to add layers to that. I'm going to make it a little more complex, but I'm going to expect that same approach of health. Okay? So something got a little corrupted when you went to the arpeggio. And so let's establish health with the first however many examples you need to feel like I got this. And then you're going to do the arpeggio and you're going to copy yourself. That way you get to be your own teacher. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah, go for it. That felt good, right? Yeah. And so then the trick is like knowing what that feels like, knowing what that sounds like, and expecting that the first time, right? When you walk out and you take your bow, in the accompaniment, this is a long intro, right? And then maybe they just give you a couple bars and then there it is, the first time, right? Okay, good. So that was an awesome opening. Where would you say it really changes character?
Honestly, like right after that opening, I feel
So,
like yeah.
Okay. And then what? What character would you describe that to be then?
I don't know. I feel like it's lighter. It's not as like grand. It's more like held back, I guess. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. A little bouncier, maybe string pizzicato kind of sound, right? Okay. So demonstrate that. Start at the beginning and then show me the difference. Good, good. Make sure that it's right in tempo. Chun, 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 chun is happening in the accompaniment, right? The way that, like, this era of music is all about expectation and whether you fulfill the expectation or you deviate from the expectation, right?
Yeah.
Because it's just so structured. The listener already kind of has an idea of how this music is going to go, sort of, right? And so it can be very playful when you realize that and you sort of set things up and then, haha, you don't shake their hand or you give them exactly what they expect and it's a little more fulfilling. And so notice that with this music. So, how much of a difference can you make when it goes legato, right? When it gets really into a much more dolce singing approach. Can you play that section then,
Okay.
starting on the F? Great. Yeah. Okay. So we never, ever, ever want our notes to just sit.
Yeah.
Everything we play has to belong to the phrase. And if it belongs to the phrase, then it's either coming or going. It's going toward the peak or it's coming away from the peak. We have to know where the peak of the phrase is, and we have to guide to it and then come away from it, more or less, right? Rarely, if ever, do we just play completely static. And so that first note, that F, on the legato section, don't let it be static. It's not just, we don't just, in other words, we see notation and we see a note, right? And we think we play the beginning of the note. And then our eye moves to the next note and we wait for the next note to start before we like do something. But the whole time there's, right? That whole note exists in time. You're still singing it. Don't just wait for the next note to sing, okay? Try it again. Great, great, great. Yeah. And then being able to do that in a subtle way through shading and through color and through vibrato and spin is how the masters do it, right? They don't just like have crescendo and decrescendo. We don't just work with a volume knob, right? And so being able to do that and yet keep it all within like a more refined, or you could say covered dynamic or something, and yet still have lots of evocative shape to it, that's really making music, right? Okay. Now, the next big character change happens, I don't know if you have bar numbers or what, but it's the grace note playful section, right? You have a low G in your part. I don't have that in my part. Okay, so take it with the grace notes and see how playful you can make it. Good. Can you make those quarter notes? Well, okay, here you get to make the musical decisions. So I want to know if you think they should be short or long. Right now they're sort of nebulous.
Yeah. I mean, I played them longer, like the first time I played it, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I kind of didn't like it, so I was kind of trying to adjust it, but I think it just kind of like was in the middle, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So do it again and experiment. See if you can do something that you believe in.
Okay.
So remember, it's all in tempo, right?
Yeah.
And your tendency then when you get like you've got faster notes, so to speak, and then you have quarter notes and half notes is to rush, right? Because it gets simple all of a sudden. How much can you be-a-ba-dum, be-a-ba-dum? Just mess around with that. Good, good. You're getting it. You see how like there's kind of a way to do that has swing to it. Good. Okay. And then sorry, never play with your legs crossed. But I'm looking for that line to really come through within a slightly legato approach. Like I hope I was demonstrating. Can you take where I just played? Great. And once you decide what the character is, then commit to it. Like I would say that those last 5 bars that you played are all one character, right? Don't try to make 3 or 4 different characters out of that one line, right? So. That the whole thing is, it's already kind of arrived, right? Try that again. That's so much more convincing. That's really nice. That's really compelling and a strong way to finish that. The next little section, I think we're just about out of time. We're going to have to go to questions, but I'll just mention it's kind of gnarly with fingers, right? That with the turn and everything. And so just practice that with a tempo. And sometimes I really like to practice like air and horn separate, so I'm not playing, but I've got it out and I'm doing my valves, but I'm also moving my air in the way that I want to, right? And so I can practice the airflow and the articulation and this at the same time, without, and I give my face a break, right? And I go back to it, and again, it's like playing a great note or a great something on one note or something really simple well, and then that establishes it. So I can go, and really feel the phrase that I want. And practice the fingers like I apparently need to. Okay. Bravo. Great stuff.
Awesome. So, there's the timer, but okay. So I guess it's like
nailed it.
Yeah, exactly, right on the dot. So I think we have about a few minutes for a question and answer. So if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat or unmute and ask.
I actually have a question. So when I'm playing, like, especially in like the higher range, I like kind of have an issue with like tension, and it kind of limits my upper range a lot. And I'm trying to like kind of get past that right now. So like, is there anything that like you think that like would be beneficial to me, that like I could do, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the upper register is we have to first and foremost remember to sing everything that we play, and actually literally sing. Right, put the horn down and sing the phrase, right, and really get in touch with our voice. And you can notice that, like, and as I'm going up in the upper register on my voice, I'm tight, right? That can happen. But we have to be assertive with our singing voice and never completely switch over into technical mode. Or as one teacher told me, we're always looking for musical solutions to technical problems. Now I know like that's not the immediate answer that most people will give of like, well, here's how you play high notes, right? But the problem is that if you start to do something physically to change, you're going to be manipulating. And that might work today, but next week, you know, you could be in a different state. Your chops might be puffy today, but not next week. Or, you know, it's hot out and it's dry today. Or in 2 years, you get braces. Or, you know, any number of things can change. And, you know, basically you're dealing with a different body every day. It's a little bit different. And on the trumpet, that's like, we know sometimes it's smooth sailing and sometimes it's wrestling an alligator. And so, but really having a very clear idea of what you want it to sound like, and noticing where tension creeps in. It probably is there way earlier, or I could say, you know, lower than you realize. And so it's not the high C that's the problem. It's like the the C an octave lower, you know, where it starts to do something and you can get away with it for a while because you're gripped. And so what we're looking for is freedom of motion. And so if you ever notice that you're locked in any part of your body, that's a signal. And we're looking for freedom of energy movement. And so if the air isn't moving freely, if the sound isn't moving freely, the sound is always your teacher. And so if you notice like, the sound changes, it gets a little thin, an octave lower than that, right? But I can still play there. Well, that's actually where the problem is. It's just that an octave higher is where it won't speak anymore. And so gradually increasing the range through like expanding scale type things like Chikowitz or Stamp or any number of exercises that just slowly expand that, but where we can really hone in our attention to where is it starting to change? Where is it starting to shift? For me, it's right around the D that I have to really pay attention, that I don't lip it. And instead I stay open and singing, right? I still have that kind of approach to it, even though when I was younger, for some reason I started to manipulate that. I think it's because it's a flat note. Somebody said, that's flat, lip it up. So I started lipping up there. Well, then I started doing this thing in that register, and that impacted everything above it. And so I think of it as like I put my clothes out in iron out the wrinkles, you know, every morning, right? And I'm like looking for those wrinkles and seeing if I can iron them out so that it can be smooth and seamless all the way up. And then it's just a matter of balance, of like not really doing too much of any one thing. And, you know, it's like, how do you learn to ride a bike? You know, you just do it. How do you learn to skateboard or surf, right? You do it. And those are balance exercises. And I think of like the high register as a balance exercise, right? If somebody's like, well, you know, more air, close your aperture, raise your tongue, right? Like those are maybe in that moment, like that was out of whack, right? But doing that's going to throw something else off. You're going to fall off the board, right? And so like being able to sort of, like I said, hear what you want it to sound like is like kind of knowing what it's going to feel like and what you hope it's going to feel like on the bike. Being willing to crash a bunch of times, but like still having that goal in mind. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. I mean, it's, you know, it's like every student wants to work on that, and it's not like an overnight thing, but
Yeah.
it's especially important that you notice it lower than you think.
Yeah, I've just kind of been stuck at the same spot for like a year or two now, and it's kind of just like becoming like a ever increasing issue. So it's just
Yeah. We do experience growth in terraces usually. Like they call it perturbation, I think, is where you're like you're basically banging up against a wall, you know, and you just like can't get over it. You can't get through it. But what happens is you realize, oh, it's this way, and then you're up here, and then all of a sudden you're at a new level of playing. But for that period of frustration, you just have to keep after it. I'm not saying like pound your face. That's not what I mean. I mean like keep working at it, you know, and seeing what helps, and then eventually, whoop, you're up here, and it's like this is completely in your rear view mirror. Also lip slurs up in like Charles Collin Lip Flexibility's book. Do you know that book?
Yeah, I think I have it.
Okay. Yeah. That just like it sets up a sort of a, you could call it a pivot point or a center. And so you're working from that and going above and below it and coming back to that spot. And then you end up right there again, and you see like, well, did I shift too much to go up? Did I shift too much to go down? Or can I keep on singing through when I return? And then it starts on a partial higher, and then it starts on a partial higher, and then a partial higher, you know, and so on. And you're playing up and down, so to speak, but as if you're just playing that one note. I found that to be pretty helpful too.
Okay. Well, thank you.
I have a question. So, I know your current job is with the Philadelphia Orchestra, so you kind
Pittsburgh,
of
actually.
Oh, sorry, no,
That's
not
okay.
Philadelphia, Pittsburgh. Sorry, they're both Pennsylvania. But
Yep.
how did you decide between like going after like a soloist career with music or an orchestral career? And do you still feel like you can still play as a soloist even though like your primary job is with the orchestra?
Yeah, good question. When I was in college, my teacher said, "Yeah, you should be a soloist." And I thought, like, really? Like, and I don't know, I just never saw myself as doing that. I think I like playing solos. I honestly haven't done that much of it, really, like, because I've been so busy with orchestra work and taking a lot of auditions that's really been my focus. I think um, I am a soloistic player, and I bring that to my orchestra work in a unique way. I think that's one of my gifts, and I love collaborating with other people. I just get such a thrill out of the full, 100 people having, one mind for a couple hours and completely focused on the same goal. I just think that's incredible, and I love that music. It's still like just my favorite music to listen to and to learn from and to enjoy. So I think it was what I enjoyed doing the most. I like working with a bunch of people. So that's why I went after it. I think being a full-time soloist as a trumpet player is such a rare thing. There are really only a very small handful, just a few players doing that full time. And then there are others who have sort of, I guess you could say they're soloists, but they're also professors. They're soloists, but they're also chamber musician. They have a brass quintet gig, and they do some other things. Or they're more entrepreneurial, and they have a new music series that they do. And like, that's amazing. That's all awesome stuff. And I think that at this point in your lives, you just expose yourself to as much as possible. And then whatever you really dig, you just do more of that. And for me, like, that's what the orchestra life was like. Every taste I got of it was like, oh, I love this. And I do something else. Yep, I still love this. Do something else. Okay, I think this is what I want to really do, and it just kept confirming that. But if I really got into something that didn't seem like, but is that sustainable? Can you make money doing that? I think you should still do it because the world needs artists, and the world needs people who, do what their heart is in. Joseph Campbell said, "Follow your bliss." I love that. And so, like, just whatever you really feel compelled to be doing. You might not know what that is right now, and that's okay too. Then you just keep tasting things, right? But once you kind of latch onto something, just give it everything, because that's what the world needs, is people who are doing that. And so it doesn't have to be one way or another, and it doesn't have to be anything that anyone's ever done before, or something that seems like, well, can you really make a living doing that? There are all kinds of ways to make a living. You can still be a great artist and, you know, not have that be your full-time, your income source. That's possible too. And I wouldn't degrade someone and call them not an artist because they're not a full-time orchestra player. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's very inspiring. I didn't really think about it that way. And that's also really helpful because I'm like thinking about if I were to do music, if it'd be like orchestral or soloist. Yeah. I think there's a question in the chat from Charlie who asks, what's your practice routine?
Well, I spend time just trying to get my body and my mind connected and aligned with whatever I want to sound like. And so part of my practice routine is just making sure I turn on my brain, I turn on my imagination, and focus as much as I can on the what and not on the how. And if I do feel like I need to tweak the how, then I really try to do it in an imaginative way, like a way that I think of analogies and I imagine, like I mentioned, surfing or skateboarding, and I imagine skiing downhill, and I imagine playing tennis with my breath. And these are, so I'm actually like up off the chair around the room doing these kinds of things while I'm playing because I'm trying to get all of that stuff going in my body and in that coordination. And that helps my rhythm, it helps my flow, and it gets me out of like overthinking things. And I don't ever want to be playing where I'm like playing catch up, where I play something, I hear it, analyze it, critique it, and then I'm always behind. I don't want to be listening and analyzing, critiquing, and then correcting. I want to be asserting with the sound that I want ahead of time, and then my sound comes. And so I'm practicing the art of like singing just ahead of my sound all the time. Now, what's my practice routine? Well, I go through all the fundamentals. I go through simple things like Chikowitz long tone things that expand the range, and where I practice a very connected sound that is my best sound in all registers and is fluid. And I do that up to like as high as I can play and as low as I can play. And then I'll move on to some finger type passages like from the Clark book, and I'll do some articulation type things. Sometimes I do that on Clark, so that I'll do it once slurred and then once with articulation. Or I might do some Arbon book style articulation, and then I do lip flexibility stuff like Charles Collin, or Irons is another book that I love. And sometimes that can take a really long time, actually, if I allow it, because I can really notice all the little details that I'm trying to fix, and I want the very simplest things to be really good. And so like I might not move on from one or two notes for 15 minutes if like it's really just not exactly like I want, or later in my practice if I feel like I wanted to fix something. And I play etudes, I play solos. These days I'm not playing concerts, and so I actually have more time. And so what I'm actually really trying to do these days is to perform more. Since I'm not getting the performance avenue through the orchestra, then I just like put a video recorder up on my phone and maybe pull up like a YouTube accompaniment to something and just play it down from start to finish as if it's a recital, and then I watch it, and I can learn a lot more from that than I ever would like sort of tinkering and toying with my playing all day long. I'd rather be performing. What's my biggest dream as a musician? Ooh. Huh. Like for myself or for the world, or for world peace through music? Feel free to clarify if you have something more specific that you're asking, Both? Okay. Well, I think music it's the greatest unifier that I know of, that at least that I've experienced in my life. Um, of just bringing people who don't even, I've played with people who I cannot communicate with in person, who either we don't speak, literally don't speak the same language, or we're just such different people that it's very difficult to get along with them. And yet we can make beautiful music together. I think that's really incredible. And that's like one of the kinds of things that can save society, is that ability to um, communicate with and collaborate with people with whom we wouldn't otherwise have anything in common with, or we couldn't otherwise communicate with. Um, and I think music has an incredible healing power, as well as just it taps into some deeper part of the soul that I think is needed for humans, especially because we, I think, spend most of our days not really present and alive. We're, just like here all day long in our social media world, or in our just like little ego circle. And so, like, hearing and receiving music as a gift, giving music and sharing it as a gift, it's this great interplay that I think breaks us out of that, and has potential for uplifting. My biggest dream as a musician myself is to just play whatever role in that I can. To I've been very fortunate to have you could say the platform that I have, like the position that I have, allows me to be heard, right? I'm not just playing in my basement. And currently, I am only playing in my basement, but normally I like people hear me every week, right? And so I feel like that's a responsibility, but it's also an opportunity. Um, and I do feel like I have something to share. I'm not just punching in a clock and going to work and then going back home and taking my paycheck. Like I really it's so much more to me. And so I'm hopefully doing everything that I can to share that, and to actually be generous and open and putting myself out there, right? That's that scary thing about musicians, is like, we have to go out and like the three people who played today, you're putting yourself out there, right? You're like opening yourself up to critique. You're presenting what you've prepared, and it's played in the moment, and it's flawed. It's not perfect. And that's the beauty, is that it will never be perfect, because we are not perfect. And so when we can go out and actually share that and embrace that, it's a really powerful thing.
How do you like recover? Like, what's your best way to recover from like blowing your lip out? Like, if you've had a very intense like practice session or like performance that really like like made your like lip, like, when you play a lot and then the next day, um it's like your tone is really fuzzy and it's hard to reach those higher notes. Like, how do you recover from that?
Well, ideally, you try to get at the root cause, because like there's a little bit of we talked about that, letting your bell sort of vibrate. And when you played like that, it was not on your face as much. Did you feel that way? Like it got it kind of off your face. And so ideally, you're not, like, even if you play a lot, you're not going to hurt yourself. That's first. And so developing new habits of sort of getting it off your face as you're playing, and letting the horn resonate more, and letting the air do the work will help. As far as recovery, if your lips are inflamed, they're swollen, right? And so you can do the kinds of things that help with swelling, like making sure you're drinking water, making sure you sleep. Ice. After some concerts, I come home and I have this like ice pack in the freezer, and it just it's like a big thing of meat that just goes right on my chops to help them. And or what, ibuprofen or something like that can help as well with just the swelling. That's a big thing that we deal with. And also like what you eat can affect that. So, and then I don't want to put the horn in the case at the end of the night if I feel that way, ideally. And so I try to do some really gentle playing at the end of the day so that when I put it in the case, it feels fresh and almost like I want it to in the morning. Even if I'm tired, I want there to be response. And so I'm going to take sometimes as long as needed after a big concert or something to sort of find that spot where, it's like, we've all been there, right? But then you can get this spot where it's just, right on the note. No articulation, just beautiful. That's beautiful response. And if I can get there, I'm ready to put the horn away.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, if no one has any extra questions, I think this is a good place to wrap up. But yeah, thank you so much for being here, all of you guys, and thank you so much, Micah, for sharing all of that really helpful advice. Like, I don't even play the trumpet, and I thought a lot of things you said like can apply to my own playing too. But yeah, have a great rest of your day, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. You can feel free to look me up on my website, micahwilkinson.com, and you can connect with me there if you wanted to get in touch about anything. And yeah, good luck to everybody.